that's straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
Are you a prodigal today? God says, come home. Come home today. Hear the heart of the Father. Come home today. The minute you cry out, and we see that cycle through this book of Judges, the minute they cried out, every time we see God bring in a rescuer. That's what Judges means. Not I'm going to judge you, but rescuer, a deliverer. I am going to come and I'm going to deliver you. I'm going to bring you back to me. And if you're a prodigal, come home.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pour into us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
Are you a prodigal today? In today's message from Pastor Ray, he teaches that if you find yourself as a prodigal child, God is saying to come home. No matter what you have said or done, God's position towards you never changes. His arms are outstretched wide, waiting for you to run back home to Him. God desires to rescue and deliver you from all that separates your heart from His. You don't have to run away in fear. The Lord desires that you immediately turn back to come home to Him. Well, let's join Pastor Ray in the book of Judges chapter 4 for today's edition of Light of the Word.
Judges chapter 4, verse 1. When Ehud was dead, the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord. Well, we have to go back to verse 30 and see how long that was. And that takes us back to verse 30 of chapter 3. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rested for 80 years. So they had rest for 80 years, but here they find this cycle that we always see through this book. We can call it a sin cycle or just a life cycle of the Christian, where we're starting with this praise unto the Lord, and then a compromise comes in and we're subdued by sin. So we're serving the Lord, then we're subdued by sin. We submit to the sin. We become a slave to the sin. And then we cry out and God brings salvation to that sin and a deliverer. So here they are 80 years later. I was just happened to read this little quote. I'm not even sure who the guy was. His name is Trapp, a Bible commentator. Was reading it this morning. The sedentary life is most subject to diseases. Standing waters soon petrify. It is hard not to grow worse with liberty. And you know what? As Christians in this Christian battle, the time to rest will be in heaven. But if you put a victory, and when you have a victory, and when you have the enemy on his heels, when the enemy is the one who's retreating, that's the time to go full court press, and that's the time to bring the death blow. When he's retreating, you have the power. You keep moving ahead because there will never be rest. All he will do ever and always is regroup and return. Sometimes people ask me, do you ever get tired from teaching week after week? And physically, I could say, yeah. But what I've learned over all these years of probably the worst weeks of my life are the weeks that I take off from teaching. Because it takes me out of my routine. It takes me out of my battle rhythm, is what we call that in the military realm. We have a battle rhythm that we're constantly, Monday is this, Tuesday is this, Wednesday is this, as you're gearing up for that battle. But it's always keeping you in this sharpness, because it always keeps you in a place where you're coming back to the Word, you're coming back to prayer, you're calling out upon the Lord. I need you to speak to me, I need you to move on my behalf. when I don't have a Sunday to teach, I find so often that those are the days that I'm sleeping in. I find so often those are the days that my devotions aren't as sharp and aren't as powerful. Can I encourage you in this, Christian? Find a battle to engage in that keeps you engaged in that battle every week. Whatever that ministry might be, whatever it could be, however it is, find one that keeps you from entering into this place of ease. Because when you got the enemy on his heels, just bring it to him. May we not give him any rest so that he might regroup. Verse 2, and all these are rich golden nuggets. We're not going to be able to dig the depth that I always so love because this word is so rich. But verse 2, it goes on. So the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan. Jabin, it's a title, like Pharaoh's a title. So Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who dwelt in Hashroth Hagan. Just a place that this commander dwells just sounds nasty as we look at this. But what do we read here? He sold them. The Lord sold them. And as we studied this before, there's no transaction going on here. There's no financial thing that's happening. What it means literally is to hand over. And there comes a time where our free will says, this is what I want. And God will constantly be saying and coming again, no, this isn't what you want. My word is always for my glory and your good. My word is always to protect you from the things that are going to harm you and provide you the abundance of what the richness of my word can produce. But there comes a point where God has to honor a woman's free will and says, this is the way you want to go. I have to let you go. Because free will demands and requires choice. And free will has to allow the opportunity to take that free choice. So it's not so much the Lord, okay, I'm going to sell you so I can beat you. He's like, this is what you want. Trust me, it's not what you want. But I have to give it to you. I have to let you have these things. And as we studied before, it says they forgot. Israel forgot the Lord, chapter 3. They forgot the Lord. And that word literally means to suppress the truth. They didn't forget the Lord. It wasn't like, oh, I forgot where I put my car keys. They literally suppressed the truth. I know who you are. I know what you're asking and seeking of me, but I'm going to suppress that and push that down because it really doesn't fit my lifestyle today. It really doesn't agree with what I want to do and where I want to go. So they suppress the truth, but here's the resultant of that truth. But you know what we read through this scriptures every time, and may everyone hear this, because I know this can be, wow, the Lord handed them over. It sounds like an angry God. God's angry at sin. He hates sin. But there's a heart and theme woven through the scriptures, all through 31,102 verses. And it's always the heart of God saying, come back to me. Yeah, if I have to put these things, if I have to put some pig troughs in your life to make you get sick of it, whatever it takes, but I'm begging you from my heart, come back to me. Luke chapter 15, always the beautiful picture of God's heart. And I want to speak to anyone and everybody here today, hearing on the stream or on the radio. God's heart is always come back. And the minute you turn towards him, you'll find that he's already on the motion running towards you. In Luke 15, the story of the prodigal, he says, I want to go try my thing and go do my thing. And he ends up, as we know that story, all the way down, blowing everything that he's got down into the pig trough and says, man, it was better to be a servant in my father's house. He thinks he's going to go back to be a servant, not knowing that God's heart is, I want to restore you as a son. I want to restore you as a daughter. And what we read, and here's what little pieces of the scriptures that are so fascinating to us when we dig a little deeper is when he turns, he has this whole speech made up. And God's like, I don't care about a speech. All I want to hear is that you've changed and you're returning to me. And we see in that story, it's a picture of God the Father. He is running to the Son. When he hears that the son's coming, he runs to the son. And these men, these are elderly men, they're older men, they wear robes. And you know what? Two things men in that day didn't do. They didn't run, because that would be a sign of weakness. It would be humiliating to see an old man run. And to run in a robe, you have to hike up the robe. The other thing men never did in that day is they never showed their legs. And here's this picture of a father going, I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care what the world thinks. I don't care what the other servants that I have, anybody, the neighbors. I am lifting my robe, showing my legs, and I am running because my son has turned to me. And I'm going to get there, and I'm going to be there. The minute he turns, there's my face that he will see. Are you a prodigal today? God says, come home. Come home today. Hear the heart of the Father. Come home today. The minute you cry out, and we see that cycle through this book of Judges, the minute they cried out, every time we see God bringing a rescuer. That's what Judges means. Not I'm going to judge you, but rescuer, a deliverer. I am going to come and I'm going to deliver you. I'm going to bring you back to me. And if you're a prodigal, come home. I would beg you on behalf of God the Father who puts me as a human flesh before you, come home. The Father has a place for you. He has a room for you. He will fatten. He will sacrifice that fattened calf because it's going to bring this sweet-smelling aroma up to the heaven, and there's going to be a celebration. No matter what you've done, where you've been, and if you think God will never take you back, you think your family will never take you back, always know the minute you turn, change your mind, and come back, God's already facing and running to you at whatever the cost. What a beautiful God, and that shapes the heart of this passage. He's not angry. He's always going to come and bring a deliverer. Verse 3, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord, for Jabin had 900 chariots of iron, and for 20 years he harshly oppressed the children of Israel. 900 chariots, to them, impossible to defeat. Oppressed that we could never get out of this type of oppression, and for 20 years they're living under the heavy hand of this king. I want you to consider something. They're under oppression. It means they're under taxes. They're under tribute. They're taking their hard-earned money and they're giving it to this king just to keep some type of peace between him, without him. And I want you to consider this. I wonder how many chariots Jabin had 20 years prior. Did he have 900 and keep 900? Has the United States ever had 15 fighter jets and kept 15 fighter jets? If we have 15 this decade, we'll have 515 next decade. That's the way war works. That's the way dominance continues, as you continue to build your army, your weaponry, so that no one can turn against you. And here's the point that I make. Maybe they only had 400 chariots. Maybe they only had 20 chariots. How did they build their army? I think they would build a large part of their army on the taxes of the children of Israel. You feed your flesh. You're building your flesh's army. You succumb to the evil one and his ways. You are building the evil one and his ways greater and greater every day. I'm reminded of that Cherokee chief teaching his grandson the ways of manhood. He said, son, every day there's two wolves fighting inside my heart. One wolf is an evil wolf. And that wolf, he is full of hatred and bitterness and pride, arrogance, lust. He goes, the other wolf, it's a good wolf. He's filled with love, kindness, and gentleness, and patience. And these two fight in my heart every day. And so do those two wolves fight in every man's heart and every woman's heart. And the grandson sat for a moment and he said, so grandfather, which wolf wins? And the grandfather replied, whichever one I feed. And here we see in this book, as this picture here, I don't think they had 900 chariots. Israel should have fought when they had 40. They should have fought when they had 400. But the longer you wait, the greater the flesh gets and the harder it will be to defeat the flesh. But here we see them call out and cry out. And maybe this Jabin sounds familiar. Like I said, it's a title. Hazor sounds familiar. It takes us back to Joshua chapter 11. Joshua, children of Israel, maybe 100 years prior or so, 150 years prior or so, they come and they already have fought Jabin, and Hazor. This Judges chapter 4 is the first time we're seeing the children of Israel have to go back and fight someone they have already defeated. And so there's a nugget there for us. It's battles still come back around. Even after we have a victory, those battles eventually always want to come back around. And I always have this saying, Satan always goes back to the well. Satan always knows what works on you, and he'll always go back to the well. And I say that Satan could come and bring me and lay out lines of cocaine, to which I go, and blood. That's stupid. Why would anybody want to do something like that? He's not going to try that with me because he's going to know there's nothing there. You won't even tempt me in the least way. Now line up a row of ice cold beers. Oh, that's what always worked when I was in my 20s. And that's what he will still always try to bring back and try to call me back into something that once worked. The battles always come back around, but you have this place in the Lord where you come back and you have to fight it again and call upon the name of the Lord until we go home, until we're in his arms. So Joshua chapter 11, we're told there in the Joshua chapter 11, and we studied that Josephus the historian said that battle back in Joshua 11, he wrote about that in the oral traditions and the oral writings of the Jewish nation. He said when this King Jabin came with his army, he had 300,000 soldiers, 10,000 cavalrymen. These are men on horses. And get this, 20,000 chariots. 20,000 chariots. How do these chariots work, by the way? These were the modern tanks of the day, if you would. There would be the chariot, usually 2 horses. Man, that's double power right there. You know, we're talking Mustang power right there for you car lovers. And so double horses, double power with a steerman. He would ride and steer. That was his only job, was to ride and steer. And behind him, holding on, and one on the left side, one on the right side, were men with swords. And if you are just an infantryman with a sword, and then here you are, and you see these chariots coming, double horse. I mean, you got this power just in front of you that if it ran you over, it would kill you. And then if you got away from that and the chariot ran you over, it would kill you. And by the way, those chariots on the wheels, they would have swords and jagged edges coming around the side. So even if you stepped aside, it would come and shred you on your ankles. These things are huge and intimidating. And then you got swordsmen, these things, tanks of the day. 20,000 is what Joshua faced. And what was the outcome of that battle? Victory. Who brought the battle? Who allowed it to come? God orchestrated it, and then God brought the victory. And God brought this great victory. You know what I find? Everything seems like a big deal to me until I get into the Word. Everything seems impossible to me, or how are we going to defeat this? Oh, this situation's so heartbreaking. I'm filled with fear. What am I going to do? Everything seems like a big deal until I sit back down in the Word and spend time with the Word of God. And then I go, that's right, you're an awesome God. You're a mighty God. You're a powerful God. And if the children of Israel would have went back, if you would, and read Joshua 11, they'd go, 900 chariots? They only got 900 chariots. They only got 900 chariots. Because look at God, the power and the victory that he brought when they came on us with 300,000 footmen, 10,000 cavalry, and 20,000 chariots. This shouldn't be any battle at all for us, guys. Everything seems like a big deal until I go back and read the Word. And that's a word for you. Does this addiction seem too powerful? I read a story like this, say, my God can wipe that out in a day. Oh, I might have to fight it again tomorrow. I expect to fight it again tomorrow, but I know it will bring me the same victory tomorrow. Depression, fear, anger, stress in your marriage, trouble with your children. I can sit down and go, I got a God who fights for me. I got a God who has a word for me today. I got a God who's going to give me wisdom for today. This isn't so bad. It's still a battle, but I know my God fights it. And then verse 4, now Deborah, her name means bee. We'll talk about that in a little bit. A prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel at that time. What did a prophet do? A prophet speaks the word of God. That's what a prophet does. Speaks the word of God on behalf of God. We see this also, it goes all the way through the scriptures. We see it in Acts 21. Philip and his daughters were prophetess, and it's a gift that's still available today because you still have this word of God today. And you can speak the word of God to anybody who's in a need, anybody who needs a word, and we have this ability. Three things, it's interesting as we look at Deborah right in this verse. Three things that she is. She's a prophetess, she's a wife, and she's a judge, as in rescuer and deliverer. Prophetess, available today, a wife. You know, I'm glad that God inserted that little line there, because you know what we can find? God gives us the ability to be more than just ministry. I can have a family and I can still be engaged in the ministry. Lots of times we go, man, I don't have time for anything else. I got my kids, and that's true. Here's the problem with that. When we only minister inside the walls of our home, we always get something out of it because it's my kids. I'm investing in myself when I invest in my kids in that sense also. But there is a power when we go, and I invest in someone that I could possibly get absolutely nothing in return. I go and I share with somebody, and there's nothing in it for me except for the privilege and the honor to be able to speak the word of God to somebody else, to be able to be the hands and feet of God to somebody else. And I could possibly get nothing back by it, but I still can just do it. And you know what your kids see? They see that it's not always about them. We have a battle with our kids today of entitlement. They feel this entitlement to bring it. They have this thing of self-centeredness because everything seems to be about them because we can make everything about them. But what they get to see is, well, I'm getting to see mom and dad invest in someone outside the family. Mom and dad's bringing us to go invest in somebody outside of our family. And we have that little acronym that we say JOY. Jesus first, others second, and yourself last. And you will live a joyous life, because if you want to make yourself miserable, think about yourself. Look in your mirror and go, oh boy, I'm upset about what I have. I don't want this. Or what I don't have. I remember them saying Abraham Lincoln that he was two-faced. And Abraham Lincoln said, if I had another face other than this one, you think I would wear this one? We think about ourselves of what we have, and we can become depressed. We can think about what we don't have and become depressed. We go out and we serve others, and we go, thank God for what I have. He's so good to me. So the judge gave the word, and we have this saying here that we always say in the church, what's in your hand? And I love that I can say that today. What's in your hand? Go use it for God's glory. Every one of us has a Bible in our hand today. And we can go and do great things with just what's in our hand. We can go and speak this word of God to people that can lift them out of any miry clay, any situation. We can bring hope to anyone that's hurting as we look at this word and give this word. And we always break it down into three things as we study this word. Who is God? What does he think of me? And what does he want me to do? And every time we open this, you'll always find who God is. We see the reverence of God, mighty, holy, awesome God. What does he think of me? So much so he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever should believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life.
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright.
We've loved walking through the book of Judges with you today on Light of the Word. We hope that today's message has reminded you of the great love your Creator has for you and how much He desires to be a part of your life. As you've been listening to Pastor Ray's message today, you may have found there's some questions you'd like answered. We'd love the opportunity to answer them as best as we can. So please send us an email at mail@ccaac.org. Let us know, too, how we can be lifting you up in prayer. That email address again is mail@ccaac.org. Light of the Word is created and produced from the services of Pastor Ray Bolus at Calvary Chapel of Anne Arundel County, Maryland. And we'd love for you to learn more about who we are and why we're sharing the gospel message. Visit our website at ccaac.org. And while you're there, sign up for our weekly newsletter and connect with us on Facebook or Twitter. You'll also discover a number of resources available to help you study the Bible and grow in your relationship with the Lord. That website again is ccaac.org. Thanks for joining us today. Our time with you has come to a close, but we encourage you to continue reading in the book of Judges. We hope you'll join us again here on Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.
You have made